This morning, I'm going to talk about a message that I'm really basing off of the title off of a scripture, the first part. And it's one I've entitled Wake Up Sleeper and Rediscovering the Joy of Church. One of my favorite passages of scripture, one of my favorite stories in scripture is Ezekiel in the Valley of Dry Bones, and where the question is asked, how can these bones live again? And it was answered that only by your spirit, Lord, that these bones will come alive. And there's so many Christian songs that deal with this and talk about this, and some more modern worship songs have addressed this story, and it's one that I really like. I was actually talking with my daughter this week, which is a good thing. Some weeks we don't talk, but I don't know. But we were talking about favorite artists, and I said my second favorite artist is a guy named Gustav Doré. And it's you've probably seen his work, but he takes biblical pictures and other pictures, and he draws them in using a line technique. So it's just all lines. And he has one of the Valley of Dry Bones, and it's a really well done piece. But the reason for this is because I think in Ephesians, and I don't have that verse up there, but I added this one last minute, but Ephesians 5:14-16 illustrates our topic. It says, this is why it is said, wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because these days are evil. And I mean, let's face it, they are evil. You look around what's going on right now, you look around what's going on in pop culture, government, all that stuff, all sorts of different areas. Things are evil. And this is nothing new. I mean, going back to the time of Jesus with the Roman Empire, and going back into Constantine and then Nero, and not necessarily in that order, but, over and over and over again. And every generation experiences what pure evil is. And it's something that's always there. I mean, we look at even World War II with Nazi Germany and all that, just pure evilness, all the time. And you don't have to go far. You don't have to scroll back far in the news feed to find something that is evil. And so this is what, as Paul was saying, this is why it said, wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. And so it's something that really comes back to us as the church. And when I say church today, I'm talking capital C, the church. Okay. One of the questions that was asked to me a couple of days ago is, are we going to possibly do a hurricane run, given everything that's going on down there? And I'm thinking it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's something that we're considering, because I think even as a small Radiant Fellowship, there's things that we can do in these times that are very troubling, on biblical levels, and what can take place. And there's all sorts of ways that we can be a light to our community, a light to people in other states. And this is something we've done before in the past, and we might consider now. Remember that first time we did that, and the Waupaca Post did a story on it, and then Fox 6 News shows up at church, and then the radio stations in the Fox Valley are advertising it, and it was just amazing how much stuff we took down there, and what that was all entailed. And what was a joyful thing about that is there are really good big organizations. There's Samaritan's Purse, there's Convoy of Hope, and Red Cross and Salvation Army, and all these things. And one pastor summed it up this way. He goes, you don't know how much we appreciate this, because when you bring a supply in, and I tend to, it's my heart, rural area, I look for the churches on the outskirts of the urban area, because when these big organizations come in, they go to the big church, and big organization to drop everything off. Not a whole lot makes it out to the outskirts of town. And so we come in and we do a massive drop of items, and we turn around and head back home again, hoping we can reach a spot where gas pumps are working again. Last time with them and I got a little shady, but we finally found a gas station where they just opened the day before, and the water line was this high around the entire gas station wall. It was crazy, but they managed to get the pumps on, and you had to pay somebody you didn't know through an app on their phone for your gas. So that was kind of iffy too, but hey, we needed gas. It worked out. We're good. They're good. It's all good. No. So I want to acknowledge that, that many people feel that the church can be boring at times. Now, this is something, and I'm going to sit. I've had a week. Anybody else have a week? My goodness. Yeah, I just I don't recall something like that before. It's like, anybody ever seen the movie Black Sheep with Chris Farley? All right. Yes. Anybody else? There's a scene in there where he falls down the hill. It's one of the best scenes ever. And he gets to a little resting spot. He goes, "Thank you, little root." And he's holding on to it. And Chris Farley's a big boy. He starts standing up, bang, it falls, and he goes down the hill again. And when he gets to the bottom of the hill, he stands up, his hair's disheveled and everything. And he's like, "What was that all about?" That was my week. So it was just like, wow, we'll just keep going here. But you know, in all of this, no matter what age you're at in church, I remember being a little kid and thinking, this is boring. I would think uh, Pastor Davis was preaching a 4-hour message, and really it was just what, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours back in those days when the services were longer. And there was so much boring stuff. And when you get older, there's times where it's like, this is boring. What are we doing? And I think that's a valid question to ask. What are we doing? What is the church doing? Because honestly, if a church thinks it's effective by having a Sunday morning service and a midweek program, it is somewhat effective, but it's not effective. You know what I mean? Like, it's effective having that. Discipleship is super important. Being together is really important, all of that. But at the same time, what else could it be doing? And so, there's some things that I want to talk about, and I want to share some ideas with us on how the church can be woken up a little bit more. Petra, classic rock band, Christian rock band Petra, they had a song in the 90s called Sleeping Giant. And talking about the church when the sleeping giant needs to wake up. And I was listening to, and this is not a political talk here, but I was listening to a person sharing the statistics. I am an evangelical Christian. Okay, I'm proud to be an evangelical. Chances are, if you're in this church or most churches around the area, you're considered part of the evangelical Christians. Okay, it's just kind of what we are. But it was staggering how many of the evangelical Christians don't vote. It's amazing. Google it. It's staggering how many don't vote. And I'm thinking, this is a time for the church to wake up. There is going to be a little, friction. There's going to be a little trouble. Why is that? Because we have a voice. And also, Jesus said, you're going to face these things, when you take a stand. And so I want to introduce the purpose of this sermon is to explore why church can feel this way and how we can revitalize our experience. Because I got to say, and I've heard it from everyone from Bob Lenz down from Life Promotions down to some of the bands and guest speakers we have had in, they've come in here and they're like, this is not a boring church. It simply isn't. We've settled down a little bit. Some of that comes with my age. All right. Hitting the 50 mark. I gotta slow it down a bit. Blood pressure ticks up a little bit. Just gotta, but we're not a boring church. We are active. We're engaged. We're doing things to meet people where they're at. And so I want to dissect this message a little bit. I want to go into it and talk about these things. And the first point where we need to start is understanding the reasons behind boredom. What is the reason why church seems boring? Again, I'm not referring necessarily to Radiant, though I think there's things, of course, that we can take away from it and things that will apply on a personal level that I don't know where everybody else is at. And there could be some watching online. There could be some sitting here saying, here we go again, boring, stuff, those sort of things. But the reason behind boredom, number one, can be lack of engagement. All right. We talked about on a national level, the Evangelical Christian Association, all the evangelical Christians, lack of engagement. Okay. You have a voice. We have a voice. Stand up and let it go. There's this song. What song is it about? A roaring lion? Lion of Judah. And ultimately, really, what we should sometimes turn that to as Christians, as the church, is the line of tabby kittens. Okay, tabby kittens of Judah. It's like, where's the voice? Where's the engagement? Where's the thing saying, watching the news and saying, we could do something about that? Where's the voice of people standing up for injustice and saying, you know what? Or even just engagement in the church, looking at things and saying, we could do this. Let's go for it. We're going to get excited. Just getting involved in different areas, saying, the reason why I can be bored is because of lack of engagement. Sometimes the reason we get bored at home is because, let's be honest, that lazy boy feels very comfortable at moments. And sometimes that moment turns into 4 hours. And as my kids will tell you, sometimes that turns into multiple head nods from me in the chair, sleeping, And it's easy to go into that area. And you know what? We need those times. We do. We need those times of rest and relaxation and renewing. But at the same time, we've been given a platform. We've been given a task to do. Are we carrying through with it? Well, I don't know, Pastor Bob, are we? I don't know, Pastor so-and-so at that church, are we? It's a lot to put on a pastor to say, to head up a program for every little thing, rather than saying, let's think about doing this. Let's think about doing that. Let's think about doing this kind of outreach. And it also, let's be honest, some of you have been in the church longer than I have. I've been in the church. I've been going to church even before I could remember, which makes it over 50 years. All right. But when you start doing things enough, what happens? There's routine and familiarity. All right. Here we go again. I've heard the statement before, the nice thing about a church like Radiant or First Assembly or the Lakes is they don't have a liturgy. Okay. We're wild and crazy guys. We don't have a liturgy. We actually do. We do. Anybody that's been here enough can walk in and say, so what is your church service like? Well, you come in, Pastor Bob kills a little bit of time. Then we sing 4 songs. Then there's announcements and message. Then we sing another song, take the offering, we're out. Okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but it becomes routine. You know what I'm saying? This is why people that have hobbies that I've seen in photography and plein air painting and all of these things, that's why they're hesitant to go into business to do these things, because it no longer becomes something they enjoy. All right. You take some photographers and they are fantastic, and then all of a sudden they hang it up. Why? Because they've turned it into a business and now it's routine, it's boring and all of that. When you're engaged in something long enough, no matter how much you love it, it can become routine. What can the church do about that? I don't know. It's really a matter of the heart saying, what can I do? What can we do to wake up and be excited about this again? There's a lot to be thankful for. Okay. When routine becomes the main thing, you can go back to saying, I'm thankful for a church that gathers together. I'm thankful for the outreach we do. I'm thankful for the ways we serve. I'm thankful for the ministries we have. I know for us as a little church, we do what we can and we're doing it well. For a bigger church, they do what they can and they do it well. I think of my pastor friend, Jerry Brooks, down at Discovery Church, I think it's called now. It was Oak Creek Assembly of God. But here's a guy with a church of over 3,000 people. Their Easter cantatas would rival anything you see on Broadway. They're doing what they can with what they have. So we're all doing what we can to keep life going and ministry happening. But really it comes down to a matter of the heart, doesn't it? Saying, this has become routine. This has become familiarity again. All right, well, let's shake it up. If it's become familiar to you again, boy, have I got a place for you and Eternal Explorers. Okay? Try leading the devotion for a group of kids that have been cooped up in school all day, and now you're going to teach them again. It becomes a handful. The Rangers were the same way. Think about starting something new, getting involved and looking at new ways, or just simply saying, God, I just want to be re-engaged. I just want the excitement to be there again. I'm thankful for what we have. I'm thankful for where we're going. But another big reason is personal disconnect. Personal struggles or distractions can make it hard to connect with the teachings or the community when we're dealing with so much. There's different types of people when tragedy strikes. Okay. And they're all fine. When personal struggles start happening, there's the person who pulls back. All right. I dealt with a guy quite a while ago who said, "You need to be worried about me," because he had a life of substances. He goes, "You need to be worried about me when you stop seeing me." I get that. I totally get that. And so that means, as a person that's aware of that situation, I need to reach out. All right. That's how some people deal with it. They disconnect, they disengage. Me and others, I'm more along the lines of my mom, that Pentecostal side. If there's an issue, a problem going on, something has come up that's big, I'm going in, I'm leaning into the crowd, okay, saying, "This is a situation I could use some prayer. I'm not afraid to hide anything. Let's rally around." And we have people that from the church that when they're going through something big, they'll reach out and say, "Would you guys pray for us?" All right. So personal disconnect, though, can become a very difficult way to for the church to engage in helping you out. It can be personal struggles, it can be distractions, whatever it is. We have to connect with teachings. We have to connect with the community. And sometimes when life is at its lowest, just coming and being a part. Okay, being a part on a Sunday morning, being a part on a Tuesday night at Bible study, coming out to men's ministry, going out to women's ministry. Because you're not alone. Your story, I don't mean to say this in a boastful way or in a negative way, your story is not unique. Okay? Let me put it this way, your pain is nothing that is something that everybody's dealt with before. It may be a unique situation, but it's pain. And all of us have gone through pain. And sometimes you'll even find somebody who's walked that same path as you. And they can offer encouragement, they can offer prayer, they can even follow up with you and see how you're doing. They can say, "Here's my phone number, call me whenever you need it." That's what engagement looks like. So Matthew 15, 8-9, it says, "These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me." And it's my prayer that we never become Christians like that, where we honor our God with our lips, but our actions are there. Our life is there. We honor God through what we do. We are the church. This is a building. This is the church. That we are a church that people see, that people notice, that people can know that they can find help and rest in. Second one is the importance of community, connection with others. That it's not just about the service, it's about building relationships. This what we're doing. It's not just about a service. It's about us having a relationship with one another. Soon when we eat together, you're sitting down, enjoying conversation and all of that. Fellowship opportunities like men's ministry, women's ministry, like our candy carnival. That's outreach, but we're fellowshipping. It's a great event. It's a lot of fun to be together and doing these things. One of my desires at this church is to see one or two small groups pop up, like a home group or something, because there's something even more dynamic about having a home group in a house. You're just enjoying conversation. You may be going through a study together and you're fostering deeper connections there. Hebrews chapter 10, verses 24-25 says, "And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up on meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another." It's important to be together. We're wired for that. It's important for us to be together. When a couple months ago, when we had the big cookout at my house, it was great. So, so many of us came out and enjoyed a nice evening, and we walked away from there saying, "Wow, I got some friends there." It was good conversation. We got to know each other. I got to find out that Sherry and Steve love hitting the trails on their side by side, and I think that's and I never knew that about it. I got in-laws that have those, and they just love it and all that. And found out you guys are outdoorsy type folk, and I am too. We had a connection there. We find things out about each other that really bring us together and know that we can have this community. And so There's a call to participation for the church in general. Active involvement is what we're called to do. This is why we won't back down as Radiant Fellowship, church lowercase c, why we won't back down from doing things. Honestly, when the news hit this week, at the beginning of the week, maybe the end of last week, that they were going to be having a pier strike, or the ports were going to strike and all of that, and I started seeing more and more statements that toilet paper is on the run again. That was no pun intended, by the way. All right. It's just funny. You have a pandemic where it's a chest bug, and then you have a pier shortage, which affects boats and everything for paper products made in the U.S. And it seems like everyone's rear end falls apart. I don't understand it. All right. But it seems like a run on toilet paper there. And so my mind instantly went to, all right, what are we as a church going to do to address this issue in our immediate neighborhood? Last time when everything got shut down and we ended up, there ended up being a mass shortage and people were to shelter in place, all that. We ended up finding someone and got involved, and they donated a massive amount of toilet paper to our church. So we put together care packages and we started advertising in the community, giving it out. My mind is wired to go that way. There's a need. Let's fill the need. What can we do as a church to help out the community? Because quite honestly, even though I'm the director of Foundations for Living, I look at that as a church and say, why should they have all the fun of serving when the church could be doing something as well? All right. Why should other programs have the fun of serving people and helping people out and, praying with somebody when the church could do something very much the same? And so there is a very important part of us being Christians in a church saying we're called to participate. And that, again, goes through volunteering, helping with services, forming small groups. Why? Because there's diversity. There are different gifts, even in our church. There are different gifts that happen. Everyone has their own unique gifts to contribute, making the church experience richer and more dynamic. Some of us have the gift of organizing and being out on the front. And when I said I need a greeter, some of you may be like, yes, I am an eye on the disc assessment. That is what I am called to do in life. Some of you have a different trait and you're like, I'm going to help organize. I'll be behind the scenes so everything runs smoothly, all of that. We all have a different trait, a different gifting in life, and we're called to use them. Because if you have somebody like me, that's out there and a dreamer and activator and all that stuff, that's great. But you find out very quickly about a personality trait like that saying, I have the gift of all of these things, but at the same time, I don't have the gift of, what it takes to carry it on and keep it moving forward and support and stuff like that. So we bring those giftings together, and now we have a program or an outreach that really is hitting and seeing all the sides of it. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 12 through 14 says, just as a body, though one, has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit, and so to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slave or free, and we were all given the one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but many. And we all have different giftings that we can bring to the table. We all have different offerings that we can do. And so we need to be an area that cultivates expectation and participation. And what's exciting for me is that in ministry, there's an old saying, nothing new is under the sun. Some of the stuff that we've done at this church is because I've seen other friends or other churches do it, and I'm like, let's do it. That seems like a great idea for our area. Sometimes there's new ideas and new thoughts, and we pass ideas on to other people. I think two of the big ones that I've seen recently is the prayer pop-up shop that we did. Was it flooded with people every day asking for prayer? No, but there was a decent amount of people that showed up. But now there's more churches saying, we're going to inquire about that because that was a really good idea. And with for me, it's like blessings upon you, do it. There's not enough churches doing that. How can we support you? I'll even sit down with you and tell you what I would do again, what I wouldn't do again with that. We have people coming into our concerts that we have here, which are quite a few these days. And they say, I wish we had that over in our city. Okay, well, let's sit down. Let's talk about it. I will give you the ins and outs on how to get a band by avoiding the booking manager. Okay, that helps. Booking managers they're good when you want a specific thing, but if you just want to reach out and see if the art is available, way different course of action and a lot cheaper. So it's like, we are cultivating something that can not only benefit the church here, but ultimately point a person to God and be an example for other churches as other churches are an example to us. So I guess the challenge is that we seek personal spiritual growth and engage with a message in a way that prompts reflection and action. That we say when something comes up, yeah, we're going to go all in on it. We're going to help out. We're going to do our part. And the parts do look different, as I've mentioned. For some, it's signing up and saying, I'll be there to do that. For others, I've had plenty in this church over the years that say, I do not have the time to participate, but how much do you need? Okay, and don't worry, I'm not going into a tithing message right now. Okay, but they will say, how much do you need? I'll write the check. Why? Because God has given them the gift of giving. And a gift of giving should be seen on the same level as the gift of hospitality and all of these things, the gift of evangelism. It takes all of us to do what we do as a church. So I emphasize with you that we should take action on making church, being a Christian, potentially less ho-hum and more exciting and vibrant. James chapter 1 verses 22 says, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves, do what it says. That goes personally and it goes as a church. That we are a church that stays actively engaged and caring for the community. I'm at a point where I'm doing what I can. And I know a lot of you do what you can. And I've come to literal realization, like, I'm not going to take on anymore. I can't. All right. And it's one of these, I'm happy to give my time to the school board. I'm happy to be at foundations. And this is my first love here. But it's because I feel God has given me a gift and the ability to do it. And maybe some week we'll talk about the fear of the Lord as the beginning of wisdom, that whole topic, because that is the driving force in my life as to why I do so much. Been down a rough road many years ago when I didn't fear the Lord. And I'll share that story with you sometime. Don't want to go back there again. But I want to reiterate that while the church may seem boring at times, while church can be boring at times, it's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for connection. It's an opportunity for transformation. And so I encourage us to actively engage and participate more for a full church experience. To be involved in here. And I know so many do. And that's actually the danger of a smaller church, is that you're pulled in too many directions. We don't want that either. We want you to know we value you. And we have a place for you. You don't need to go through Theology 101 to participate in kids programs. You don't need, a bachelor's in divinity to help out in another way. You gotta have a relationship with Christ. Let's be honest. Got to be leaning towards the ways of discipleship. But there's a lot of joy that comes with serving with one another. So let's have the worship team come up. Ushers, if you wouldn't mind coming up. I'm thankful that we're able to do what we do because of the support we get from the church, and comes from you that trust God's words to give, and that, in all different ways he blesses us, doesn't he? It really is amazing how God does that.